What's going on, people? I just wanted to get in and do this quick live stream. The live stream is entitled Counter Propaganda: Why Black Men Should Continuously Challenge False Narratives About Us. So, the whole thing about propaganda, right? One of the major goals of propaganda is to create a false narrative that actually allows for us as black men to be dehumanized and to act as a justification for the dehumanization and for us to be handled and treated inappropriately, for us to be targeted with slurs and mistreatment, violence, and even murder. And the only way to really combat those false narratives is to challenge them and to dispute and refute those false narratives with data, anecdotal evidence, primary source, empirical data, surveys, etc., etc. See, this is a lot of people talk about how men get on YouTube and complain, and I am definitely not advocating for any brothers to use most of their content to complain about women or what have you. But it is very important that anytime that we have any false claims about black men in general, the collective of black men, that we vehemently that we vehemently challenge those false narratives because it leads way to allowing us to create a bad reputation amongst other groups of people around the world. And it also, most importantly, the most important reason is because it supports and allows for the justification of our constant mistreatment in terms of receiving violence by law enforcement, receiving murder at the hands of law enforcement and other groups within this country. You see, and so the reputation of the black man, as far as things, how we behave in society, unfortunately, it's not a very good reputation, right? Shout out to Crew, brother. What's going on, brother? So we don't have a very good reputation as black men around the world, right? I mean, I hear brothers via social media from all over the world, African brothers, talk about the whole baby mother thing, which is we have a big reputation as being black men that don't take care of our kids, but the CDC shows that 42% of black men don't have kids, 33% of black men are married, and so that leaves with about 25% black men who have out of wedlock kids. And within those 25%, most of those guys actually take care of their kids some type of way, financially or in terms of time, right? But there is a 8%, a small 8% of all black men that do not contribute anything to their child's life. And these are the deadbeat dads that the majority of black men, unfortunately, we get the bad rap for, right? But let me tell y'all something, right? Here's the thing: when I was younger, I believed all of the bullshit that they said about black men in general. I believed that most black men were deadbeat dads. I believed that most black men were in prison. I believed and fed into the propaganda as a young boy. I'm talking about from ages 11 to about 17 to 18. And so, if I was able to feed in and to be able to be indoctrinated with these false narratives about black men, just imagine how many other black boys are indoctrinated the same way. You see, so it's bad enough that we have all these other groups around the world, all of these other demographics, white people, Asian people, Hispanic people, even black women that help to spread and buy in to the propaganda about black men, about being deadbeat dads, about being, poor, homeless, no good for nothing dogs, cheaters, etc., etc. I mean, you hear all of the stereotypes and you hear all of the propaganda that is said about us. And it wasn't until I became an adult, 19, 20 years old, that I started being able to understand and being able to hear and listen to the actual empirical data that disproves most of the bullshit they say about us. You see? So you have to understand that essentially the first battle that black men have to fight is a battle for the mind, right? We have to we have to fight the battle for the mind, and we have to create the narrative that we want about us out there in the world. We have to change the perceptions that other people have about black men. And most importantly, even before thinking about other groups of people, other demographics, we have to change the perception that black boys and black men have about other black men or black men as a collective. Because as I said a few moments ago, I was one of those young boys from age 11 to about age 17, 18 that believed the bullshit that they said about black men. I believed that black men were baby daddies. I believed that black men didn't take care of their kids. I believed that black men were the worst fathers. These are all of the bullshit narratives that I believed that I heard from black women, from other black men when I was a boy. And so when you're a boy, you don't understand methodology and scholarship and all of those things. You buy into the bullshit that people say about black men. And essentially, you become your own worst enemy. You aid white supremacy and other competing groups. You aid those people and you become allies of those people against your own goddamn demographic. You see? So it is important whenever somebody says anything incorrect about black men, it is important for you to challenge it and to provide supporting evidence that refutes that false narrative. I give pushback constantly. I continuously give pushback on bullshit about black men, and I have a note file on my phone that is filled with CDC studies, Pew Research studies, different surveys that talk about information on black men, and I have these sources ready at my fingertips so that when someone says bullshit about black men, I can easily refute that and provide evidence that proves my point. Okay? People are going to use propaganda. Propaganda and intelligence gathering are the first steps to warfare. The first battle is always a battle of the minds, right? You must try to control the minds of the general public of the country that the country that you live in as the military to get them to support the war. You must try to control and manipulate the minds of the enemies or what have you. You want usually try to get the enemy civilian population to turn against the particular regime that they're going against. And this is the same tactics that they use on black men. See, they target not only our adversaries, white supremacists, and other competing groups. But they also target black men and black boys as well, because black boys and black men are the biggest support base of our own. I mean, we're the biggest support base of our own demographic. If we cannot unite and organize amongst each other, you see, then there's really no hope until that happens. There is no possibility that we can win until that happens. There's an African proverb that says, if there's no enemy within, then the enemy without can do us no harm. You see? So it's I'm not gonna be long on this live stream. Guys, hit the likes for me if you liking the message that I'm giving out. I'm just sending this message to other black men and black boys. We have to constantly challenge false narratives about black men. 42% of black men don't have kids, right? 33% of black men are married compared to 26% of black women. 25% of black men have kids out of wedlock. There's about 2.5 million black men that live an upper class life. These are facts, right? Let's challenge the bullshit, people. Because a lot of people say that we should just ignore people, right? That say these false things about us. But when you ignore it, you allow those people to keep the dominant frame. You allow those people's narrative to remain dominant in the minds of the masses, which further endangers us as a demographic. You see, when people believe the things that the false narratives that are spread about black men, it gives them reason to support our mistreatment, our violence perpetuated against us. It allows these people to support these things. It allows people to not even see us as human and to have no empathy for black men when we are harmed or killed. Even our own women, feel this way in many cases. I mean, there's a sister named Stacey Patton, who's a writer that posted on social media that she had a conversation with a black judge in her particular area, and the black judge was saying how there's research that shows that black women judges actually penalize black men more in terms of sentencing. So what does this tell you? It tells you that these black women are women that believe the false narratives about us. They believe that we deserve higher sentencing when it comes to crimes than other groups of people, because we are allowing these prevailing to permeate social media, to permeate traditional media, and to remain as the dominant messaging within the minds of other groups of people, as well as the minds of our own goddamn people. You see? Particularly black boys, because what happens is when you're able to take control of the mind of the black boys, basically what you're doing is, if you're cutting off the black male support base, you're cutting off the continuous culture of black males, right? If we have a situation that's going on in the black community right now, which I always talk about. It's essentially the matriarchal black men and women versus the patriarchal black men and women. The patriarchal black men and women are the most successful financially, education-wise, economically, as far as businesses. 80% of businesses within the black community, the businesses that create 80% of the revenue within black businesses and actually employ 80% of the black people, well, not 80% of black, but it employs 80% of the total employees that black businesses employ. These are black men-led businesses. You see, all the black women-led businesses combined are only about 20% of the total revenue and total employee base. And so, the fact that we have this war going on is saying that the matriarchal males are supporting the matriarchal agenda, and they're supporting black women who are matriarchal. And they are made up of 2/3 of the population of black people, and the patriarchal males are only make up 1/3 of the population of black people. But anyway, like I said, I'm not gonna be long. Let's continue to push back against these false narratives about black men. Let's try to create our own medias, our own propaganda to push the narrative that we want about ourselves, and that is the narrative that is the truth. We can no longer allow for other people to control the narratives about black men and to perpetuate and push false narratives about us. Those days are over. We must not sit back and ignore. We must not ever ignore when someone says any type of false narratives about us. We must challenge it continuously. And we must have sources and evidence to refute these false narratives. So that's it. That's all I got for y'all today. Make sure y'all hit the like. Please leave a comment, share. Let me know what you guys think. All right, peace, folks.